So we are rolling. Matthias,
Hi.
how are you doing, good sir? Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Cool, man. So, guys, just a little bit of an introduction. This is Matthias. I've known you, for about 5 years now? 5 years or so. We met through doing the DJ Academy with us. And yeah, since then we've become kind of close. And I've seen you really sort of develop into your passion. I remember us speaking about gut health and wellness and diet and things like that back then when I was experiencing some of my own health challenges. And it was pretty much because of you that I made some changes in my own life, some positive changes, but we'll go into that. So yeah, maybe just tell us a little bit more about yourself. Anything you want to share with anyone, and then
Awesome.
we'll jump into Manipūra.
My name is Matthias. I'm German. I studied nutrition and home economics in Hamburg in Germany, and I opened a company about 2 years ago called Manipūra. Manipūra is in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is a holistic medicine. It's the solar plexus chakra, so basically the gut chakra. And I produce fermented gut health shots that are not pasteurized.
Cool. So I will say I've been using your product for a while now. I think the first time you actually gave it to me was when you just launched. You were still, you didn't even have the branded bottle yet. And
Nothing.
It was a case of like, hey man, if you can, get the bottle back to me. I'll give you like something off your next purchase. And I mean, I've lived my life with like gut issues as a kid. Whenever I was too anxious or stressed or whatever, it would always express itself in my gut. So to find something that helps, that kind of relieve that inflammation, pain, gas, acid reflux was extremely helpful. I mean, I'll go into my story a little bit later and some details. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about what exactly the mechanism is that's happening, or what is it about what's going on in the gut and why it is important to sort of supplement to sort of support gut health.
So I think the biggest issue that we have is that we, as humans, did some decisions in the past that were not beneficial for us,
Right.
especially not for our gut.
Right.
The best example here is pasteurization.
Okay, yeah.
Pasteur invented pasteurization, I think, 1862, and he invented it for wine.
Yes.
So what we do nowadays is we pasteurize literally everything. Everything you buy on the shelf, apart from fruits and vegetables, is usually pasteurized to achieve a longer shelf life.
Right.
And to kill the bad bacteria. But obviously pasteurization also kills the good bacteria. So
Right.
what we eat is basically double dead.
Right. I
Um,
see.
And we need the regular intake of good bacteria to keep our gut healthy.
So if I understand correctly, I've read a little bit about your microbiome in your stomach or whatever, but it appears, or what I'm hearing is that you need to almost, let's call it, plant the good seed, because whatever's in there is going to sort of grow and is going to thrive. And unless you try and bring some sort of balance, it's not going to rectify itself without sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of intervention.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that most of the people live a Western diet at the moment. So the Western diet is high fat, high sugar diet, and processed foods. So we have to understand that. Or let me start with bacteria. Bacteria are everywhere. They're on my hands, they're on your laptop, on the camera, everywhere. And in the past, it was always said, bacteria are bad.
And bacteria must stay outside of the body.
Bacteria must stay outside. We sanitize our hands. We don't let our kids play outside anymore. And now is that we realize, or in the past 20 years, a lot of studies came up because we are getting closer and closer to actually figuring out what the gut does and how powerful the gut is, especially the gut-brain connection.
Right.
And we have to understand that we have trillions of different bacteria and yeasts and viruses in us. And usually, or in the best case scenario, they have a balance.
Right.
If we eat a high sugar, high fat diet, for example, like the Western diet is, what happens is we feed specific bacteria.
Okay.
So every bacteria is responsible to break down something else. There are bacteria that break down oils, there are bacteria that break down carbs, that break down fruits, vegetables, and so on and so on. And if we have a one-sided diet, we start only feeding a certain kind of bacteria, the bacteria that like sugars, for example,
right.
which are not the best bacteria.
Yeah, yeah.
And on long term, what happens is they start outcompeting
okay.
The others, and
right.
this leads to an imbalance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that. So I've been kind of trying to get this sort of gut health right, especially for the last sort of 3-4 months or so. I've been taking proton pump inhibitors pretty much since 2013, when I had some bleeding ulcers that had to be treated. And just going through the normal Western medicine, the answer was, okay, well, just take this stuff and it will help you handle the sort of acid reflux, and it will reduce the risk of ulcers, and it will allow your stomach to heal, etc., etc. And I was pretty much on a 10-year journey of, it wasn't great. Let's put it that way. It wasn't great. I had to really watch what I ate. I had to watch my stress levels, but then at the same time, I live quite a demanding life, so it doesn't always allow you to kind of be as conscious and intentional about what you eat and so on. So you always tend to be treating the symptoms. You know, you have a reaction, and then you kind of, okay, let me get rid of that reaction. Fast forward to, after you launch your product, and definitely sort of beginning of last year, I went for some tests. And I actually saw that my stomach lining was perfectly fine, no ulcers, no sign of cancer. And for a long time, that was my biggest fear, right? That there'd be cancer, because the risk with ulcers and cancer goes up. And so that was always the thing. So when I found out my stomach lining was okay and I wasn't at risk for cancer or anything, the next logical step was, I want to get off this medication. It just doesn't, I want to see if I can manage sort of manage my what I eat versus my stress, and make sure that I'm not pushing myself into this sort of high acid thing. Because I also somewhere, and I guess it was just through watching a lot of cooking shows. Like, I love cooking, and I love sort of your Indian cuisine and Mexican cuisine. Everything that's super spicy is what I enjoy, and it is everything that technically, according to Western medicine, I shouldn't be eating. But then I started realizing that if anybody in my house was going to get a stomach bug, it would be me. And I started going like, is there a connection between this proton pump inhibitors that's reducing my stomach acid and me becoming susceptible to these stomach bugs? And how is it that maybe the mechanism is, if you think of areas where, let's say like India, they eat a lot of spicy food, right? That's what they live on. But maybe that level of stomach acid in their diet is actually what's protecting them against sort of infection, against whatever, because that's a natural mechanism, defense mechanism. And by treating it one way to get rid of the acid, I'm actually making myself vulnerable to something else. What are your thoughts on that sort of thing?
So India is actually a nice example, because there was a study during COVID that people who lived in countries where they eat a lot of fermented foods, like India, for example, the hospitalization rate during COVID was 36% lower than in other countries. So there is definitely a connection. For me, it's a little more complicated, because especially here, since I'm in Cape Town, I feel like in Cape Town, doctors are very quick with giving antibiotics.
Yes.
What we have to understand is that a healthy gut boosts our immune system.
Right.
So a healthy gut can lead to less sickness. You might be more energetic, better mental clarity, and so on and so on. And it can prevent sicknesses. But the reason is because it boosts your immune system.
Right. Right.
So in the Western medicine, we are a little bit like, we have a flu, we go to a doctor and we get a nose spray. So we are not working on our immune system to basically solve the problem ourselves. Yes. We are always working on the symptoms.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's the biggest issue. And but it's also changing. I mean, there are more and more doctors that see things in a more holistic way, or try to find alternative methods, because there are studies now that show that it actually works. I mean, and when we have to understand our gut, so there are certain chemicals that your body needs that you can't break down.
Right.
Without your gut bacteria, there is no possibility to break them down.
Okay.
So one example is mother's milk, for example. Mother's milk is super complex, has a lot of different proteins and sugars and so on. So mother's milk has sugars that are necessary for the baby, for the brain development, that can't be broken down by the baby. That they can only be broken down by the bacteria that the baby already has when it comes from the mother. So, that's a very important point. So I think we have to more concentrate on our immune system, and which is connected to our to the gut health.
Yes.
Than trying to solve the symptoms the whole time, because then you get other issues, side effects.
Yes.
Then you have to take something else to conquer the side effects, and so on and so on. And in the end, you sit there and only have to take tablets and supplements, and that's not the way to go.
So this is actually something that came up with Adrian yesterday. You know, he was so from a CBD point of view, but he was saying a very similar thing. You know, and oftentimes, and I know this is something I can definitely relate to now. You start treating one thing, and then you have this sort of chain reaction. And I guess it's because, like you say, your body's always fighting to try and find the balance. And I think that's actually what ended up happening with me. You know, I started supplementing with CBD to treat anxiety. The CBD, the anti-inflammatory properties then allowed me to be able to get off the proton pump inhibitors with the help also of your gut shots. I must be honest, that was a great thing. And I was super excited when I saw you coming out to our side, because it meant I could just quickly go down the road and grab some. Because it just happened to coincide. It's funny how these things happen. It's like, you know, everything just kind of fell into place. And so I definitely, now that I've been taking your gut shot and being off the proton pump inhibitors, I've noticed that I'm feeling so much better than I was, say, if I think to January last year, right? A big part of it is actually not even physical. It's more sort of emotional, and it's more psychological, right? Yeah. And it's interesting that it's only been in the last couple of weeks that I've also been seeing this like gut mental health, gut-brain connection is coming out, to the point that I did a quick Google, because I wanted to prepare for this a little bit, and I wanted to see could proton pump inhibitors be wrecking my gut health? And the answer is yes, it was. And then did that have any other impact on my, and I mean, at one stage I was hectically depressed, anxiety through the roof, with like suicidal ideation. And fortunately, the what helped me is me studying psychology. So it helped me sort of manage my thoughts, my feelings, or whatever. I could look at it through the lens of what I've been trained in. And so it wasn't, I didn't really reach crisis point, so to speak. But now, if I look back, I've not had any of those suicidal thoughts. My depression is definitely lower. My anxiety is definitely lower. And it made me go, I wonder what all the connecting parts are. And I actually found a study this morning that, let me just start this up so you can see it as well. So it actually says that stomach acid drugs cause depression, and I'm not going to go into it because I'm pretty sure you were planning on touching on this as well. If anybody wants to search it, it's in the Medical Times today, and it goes straight back. If I read the first line, it says might lead to major depressive disorder by disrupting gut bacteria. I read through it a little bit, and they spoke about some of the mechanisms and the links or whatever. But the point is, clearly, sort of, there's so much more going on, and I'm not knocking Western medicine, but at the same time, I think we've now reached a point where you have people such as yourself who've been saying this thing for a while, much like Adrian with cannabis. Much like some people with psilocybin, where the information's out there now. So what can you tell me about sort of your gut, that sort of, let's talk gut-brain connection and so on?
Yeah, so the gut-brain connection is very important. There are certain, so the gut and the brain are always communicating.
Right.
So maybe when you are in a situation, for example, you have an interview for a new job.
Right.
And you can literally, you get stressed and you can literally feel it in your stomach.
Yes.
So they influence each other. So if you have, for example, a job that's super stressful, that's why scientists also say stress is one of the worst things for your gut health, because it influences the gut.
Okay.
And I think that's something that we just start to understand, this connection. Yeah. Also, as I said before, the gut bacteria can transform certain things into chemicals that we need, that our brain needs for brain development, for example. So there was a study, I think, I don't know exactly when it was, but they did a study with mice,
right,
where they basically took away certain bacteria, and they realized that the brain development wasn't working correctly.
Right.
I mean, there are so many little studies now that come out and that show us that unhealthy gut can lead to autoimmune diseases, to diabetes, Alzheimer, depression, anxiety, ADHD, obesity. It's inflammation in the skin. It's unbelievable. So, and when you also think about that, when you look at me now, there are more bacteria cells that you look at than human cells.
Right. Wow.
So, maybe we are just kind of a vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe Liver King was onto something.
Yeah, I mean,
with it not washing.
I mean, when on the other hand side, you see when you have a healthy gut, your mental health is much better.
Yes.
You're much more energetic. Sometimes you see it in people. They glow. They have nice skin. They have glowing eyes. So we can actually, with understanding our gut and with healing our gut, we can optimize ourselves, and that's where the scientists are right now. That they actually try to individualize a therapy, a gut therapy, where they individually find out which is the best way to heal your gut.
Okay.
And you, for example, have gut bacteria that I don't have, and I have gut bacteria that you don't have.
Okay.
There's nobody is the same, and if you take antibiotics, it might be that you lose bacteria strains forever that only you have.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow! That's interesting.
So you can heal your gut, but there are situations where these bacteria just don't come back.
Sure. That's a pretty scary thought, if you think about it. And I mean, that's exactly what you were saying. And again, I don't want to go, ooh, science bad, ooh, medicine mad. But at the same time, I think it's the sort of human condition where we try and fix this problem without considering what the implications are. So then, obviously, now one of the ways, or probably the main ways that you can supplement and support is through something like your product. So tell me a little bit more about fermentation, a little bit more about sort of your product specifically, and then we'll talk about maybe even some of the. I know that one of the things in South Africa that sort of holds us back in so many things is regulation. And what I mean by that is, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everybody must go out there and, be making their own stuff in their bathtub without sort of thinking about the consequences or whatever. But at the same time, what's sort of holding you back in taking your product, to a bigger scale?
Yeah.
We'll touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, of course. So let me talk about the product
Sure.
first so that people know what it is. So I produce 3 different kinds of gut health shots. So it's basically...
and do they each address a different thing? Because, I use all 3 of them, so it'd be interesting to know what you, let's call it, aiming at.
So the ingredients are based on Ayurvedic principles. Ayurveda, I said before, I think is an Indian holistic medicine, thousands of years old. And Ayurveda basically says that you need a certain amount of heat for a healthy digestion.
Okay.
So there are people that have too much heat. For example, I sometimes have like these red rushes, which is a sign that I have too much heat. There are people who have too little heat. They are fatigue all the time or freeze a lot. And they are kind of earthy, balanced people. So this is very rudimental.
No, sure. Don't worry. Yeah,
okay. So I invented 3 shots that kind of try to balance this. So if you have too much heat, you take the cooling shot, which is one of the 3, and it balances the heat. If you have too little heat, you take the warming shot, and the earthy shot maintains the heat.
Right.
And so the shots consist of vegetables and spices, and turmeric, black pepper, salt, and water. And let me talk about lactofermentation. So a lot of people ask me, is it kombucha? And kombucha is not a lactofermentation.
Right.
Kombucha is fermentation with a SCOBY, which is different. Lactofermentation is a lactic acid fermentation. So it has nothing to do with milk. It's a vegan fermentation. Lactic acid bacteria are good gut bacteria that are everywhere on the vegetables, in the vegetables. And what I do is basically it's sauerkraut or kimchi. That's lacto-fermented. And what I do, I make an environment for the good bacteria that are already on the vegetables to grow. So I don't add any cultures or add a probiotic capsule or anything. This is all natural. And every batch is different because I don't know which bacteria are on the cabbage that I buy tomorrow.
Right.
But there might be complete different ones that are on the cabbage that I bought last week.
Yes.
What basically happens, the product is not pasteurized, so you have the good bacteria are in there. It's just cold-pressed fermented vegetables. And a very important thing about gut health is the diversity. That you help your gut to keep this diversity of good bacteria. So that's why I personally I don't believe in these capsules.
Right.
But that's my personal, I'm not a doctor, but that's my personal thought on it, because these capsules, you're giving your gut the same amount of strains and the same strains over and over and over again. And I know from different studies that, as I said before, if you have a one-sided diet and you're only feeding a certain amount of bacteria, they start out-competing it. So in my understanding, it should be the same when you take probiotic capsules.
So, I think, so Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she's been on Joe Rogan a few times, actually touched on that. They were talking specifically about the problems with probiotics and, how to use them, when to use them, so on. And one of the things that she actually mentioned is one that you could possibly be buying dead cultures. So what they think is there, and by the time you get it is different. Storage, transport, etc. But also, I think what she was coming at is similar to what you were saying, that it's not like a sort of natural, as it's kind of very measured and controlled, which isn't the way which isn't always best for the body.
And there are not enough studies that actually say that they are good. I mean, it's definitely good to give your gut bacteria, especially when you're on medication. But the long-term benefits are not measured yet.
Yes.
Not that I know of. So that's why I'm also more like I was never a fan of taking medicine. I was always the person that waits to the last day and really now I have to, and I like a natural approach.
Sure.
Like kombucha, for example, is also something that if you drink it regularly, it might help your digestive system, boost your immune system. It has antioxidants. It's a healthy thing. But also there, when I see some kombucha brands, they have a lot of sugar in it.
So this is a thing, man. I mean, you probably. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, in 2017 was probably when I was at my heaviest, and it was post that our discussion and just the journey of what my wife and I were going on to, because our youngest was about a year old, etc. And we went on like a weight loss thing. I started noticing that like my weight was becoming a problem, which was difficult for me. Anybody who sort of knows me, I mean, they used to call me Bones at school. That was my nickname at school because I was super skinny. And then to suddenly sit down and go like, wait a minute, I weigh 98 kilos, which was a bit crazy. We ended up doing the ketogenic diet, and I responded phenomenally well. Like I dropped 26 kilos or something in a month. And I started feeling so much better. Like I got to the point where, I barely ate, which was how I was when I was a kid. Ironically, I didn't need much food, but I was energetic. I could perform at school. It wasn't nutrition definitely wasn't holding me back. I was playing sports, I had this endless amount of energy. Granted, I was a lot younger. But it seems that, as you say, the older I got and the more I got entrenched in eating the Western diet, because growing up as a kid, my diet was a lot more varied. But then, to come back to what you were saying about like sugar is a killer for me. I noticed that I should not really have sugar, besides my long COVID effects. I know it spikes my insulin and everything too much, and then I always feel this major crash. So I need to steer clear of sugar as much as possible, to the point where I even asked if your gut shots would break my fast, because I respond to sort of intermittent fasting or ketogenic diet, and I actually think that comes down to my genetics. I'm probably 100% descendant of the Khoisan, and I think if thousands of years ago my ancestors were running around eating meat, very little plant, but being able to have this sustained energy that sometimes lasted a few days, between eating type of thing. So my body definitely responds to that, which is, so I'm not saying it works for everyone. With my wife, not so much. She's obviously got European lineage, so her body's a bit different. But sugar, man, like I notice that even if I have like a chocolate, my gut health I can feel is gone, So, I mean, talk a little bit more about why, because you brought up sugar especially. So
just to say, with the keto diet, you should do a keto diet for at least 60 days. So it might, and then your body adapts to it. So your body basically, keto diet, I don't know if everyone knows, keto diet is basically a high-fat diet, medium protein, about 20% protein. And very low carbs.
And that carb is like fruit and veg, not even fruit, more vegetable carbs.
High in fiber, ideally. Right. So broccoli is good, cauliflower is good, for example, and leafy greens. And you should have about, ideally, 20, the hardcore guys say 20 grams of carbs per day. Some people say 50, but not more, because it's ketosis. That's where it comes from, the keto diet. Ketosis is something your body gets into when it has to burn fat, when it doesn't have enough carbs to burn the carbs. And it's a stand where you're in. And when you eat too many carbs, you get kicked out of ketosis. But that's also, there are new studies that also say when you once learned, or your body learns how ketosis works, then it can actually do
go
both
in and out
at the
quicker.
same time.
Oh wow, do it.
So it can adapt to the situation much better. Burning fat is also gives you more energy. That's why people who are on a ketosis diet have more energy. Yeah.
So I can attest to that. I definitely perform better when I'm on keto, 100%. The only thing where I noticed, and that's kind of why I got out of it, which now 2 years later, I'm kind of going like, I should have just carried on, is because I didn't really enjoy weight training as much, because you don't have that like in the pocket carb push. But it maybe just meant I had to change my training style a little bit. But I enjoyed like lifting heavy weights, like big deadlifts. Well, big for me, you know what I mean? But like I enjoyed that, and I just felt like I couldn't quite get there like I did when I was eating carbs, for example. You know, because carbs it's a very mental game with carbs. Like carbs trick you into thinking you want more carbs all the time, and carbs is the answer. But yeah, I mean, definitely I've noticed that now. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I found out that my blood sugar levels were completely out of whack, and I needed to bring it back into sort of safe zone. And that was it. I was like, okay, I'll just do keto for 2 days, and my body was straight back into it. It was ready to go.
So what I think is very important, that carbs are not bad.
Yes.
You know, but there are carbs and carbs.
Yes.
So the problem is that
processed carbs are terrible.
And especially when you go in the supermarket and you buy ready-made dishes, have a look where the sugar stands. You know, usually they have to list the ingredients based on how much is in there.
Yeah.
So if you have sugar on the second or third point already, then you know there is a lot of sugar in there. And what sugar does, sugar is a short chain, 2 molecules. Your blood sugar level goes up and down because your body can split it very fast.
Right.
So, and when your blood sugar goes down, your body will try to keep it up again. So you start craving carbs again and want to eat again. And that's why when you eat sweets, for example, you will get hungry after half an hour. You just want more and more and more. And that's a big issue. And with kombucha is an amazing thing. You just have to be careful that there's not, because kombucha is a fermentation
that uses sugar.
That uses sugar, yeah. And kombucha also always, which is also interesting to know, has 0.5 to 1% alcohol in it, because that kind of fermentation also produces alcohol. But
and the alcohol also comes with sugar, ultimately, carbs.
Yeah, but if the fermentation is done long enough and there are not that many sugars in there, then kombucha is an amazing, amazing healthy drink. And my fermentation, the lacto fermentation, doesn't produce. I always tell people at the markets where I sell, when they ask me what's the difference, kombucha and your product. So if you would pasteurize kombucha, you would, because pasteurization would kill the good bacteria that are in kombucha, you would end up with tea water. Maybe you have some sugar residues and a little bit of alcohol.
Right.
But that's kind of it. So my product is made out of vegetables and spices. So if you would pasteurize this, you still have the benefits of the vitamins and minerals that are much more available due to the fermentation, because the fermentation breaks down sugars, so carbs, and transforms them into lactic acid bacteria.
Right.
So with my product, for example, let's talk about the warming shot. It has beetroot in it. Beetroot is amazing for your liver. The downside is the high sugar content.
Right.
The fermentation takes the sugars out, so you have the good without the bad, and that's why the shots are a little bit acidic and not sweet at all.
Yes.
Also, my shots have turmeric and black pepper in it, and that's also something where actually, when I go in health shops sometimes and I see some of the products, then I ask myself why. So, for example, recently I saw a company that sells turmeric capsules.
Capsules, yes. Yeah, that's a big thing at the moment.
Yeah, but what's very important to know is that your liver needs black pepper to absorb turmeric. So in combination with black pepper, your liver can absorb turmeric about 300 times better. And that's a very important fact. I mean, you can eat these turmeric capsules, but if you don't add a little bit of black pepper, then it's a little
pointless.
bit of a waste.
So, I mean, it's and ironically, I remember when black pepper became a thing in South Africa. You know, there was a stage where there wasn't really black pepper. I mean, you saw it in restaurants maybe, and there was this belief that it was bad for you. You know, that was what we were told. But this was also at the time when they were like, sugar gives you energy, you know, have sugar, and advertising sugar to like kids type of thing. But yeah, so black pepper, turmeric. What else do you have? So I must be honest, my favorite one is the beetroot one. I don't know what it is. I think that makes me feel the best. But I know that beetroot in of itself has a it's called what's like a vasodilator. It allows you to take more oxygen out of the blood or whatever. So I mean, so now this is interesting. This I never knew that this. I didn't think about it like that. That it's not only supporting. It's not only supplementing your gut. It's also supplementing. You know,
yeah, of course. So the turmeric is very good for inflammation. I guess most people know that. And also good for your liver. The beetroot is amazing for your liver, very cleansing. Also carrots are very good for your liver. But as I said, there's a lot of sugars in there. So, so that's why, for example, if you do a keto diet, then beetroot is the last thing you should eat.
Right.
You know? So the fermentation is basically a good way to get the good without the bad. Also.
Right.
And in addition, you have the good bacteria.
Yes.
That support your gut health.
Yeah.
And maybe also interesting, there was a study, but that's like years ago. They had a look at what people in European countries eat and compared this. And they maybe you know that the Mediterranean diet, for example, is super healthy because it's so diverse.
Right.
And people in Bulgaria, for example, they have much lower numbers when it comes to cancer, depression, and all this because they have so much fermented foods in their diets.
Right. Wow.
And there are fermented foods and fermented foods again. You know, when you go to a supermarket here and you buy a sauerkraut in a jar off the shelf, then it's pasteurized. So it's
so that it can last longer.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still good for your digestion, but you don't have any good bacteria in there. So if you buy a sauerkraut, little tip, take it out of the fridge. Because the fridge ones are usually not pasteurized and should also say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you've got the three different ones. What is the main differences, and you know, what does each one contain? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but just so that people can, you know, have, if they we'll make a short out of this, and then people can find that info.
So basically, they all do the same. So they have the good bacteria in it. I'm not. I don't know if if I'm allowed to mention this because I haven't analyzed the product. It's basically a normal lactofermentation that you can do at home.
Right.
That I do. So you got the good bacteria, you got the vitamins and minerals of the ingredients. So let's start with the warming shot. The warming shot has, all of my shots are cabbage based.
Okay.
The reason is cabbage is super high in vitamins.
Right.
And cabbage has a big surface. So cabbage gives me a lot of bacteria that I can use for the fermentation. Right. So cabbage, then there is cauliflower in there. There is beetroot, ginger, turmeric, black pepper, cayenne pepper, piri-piri, Himalayan salt, and distilled water. So that's basically it.
I do like that one as well, I must be honest. They're all delicious. You know, after it's one of those things where I remember even with kombucha, at first you're like, oh, what is this? Because, you know, it's not sugary and it's not flavored and it's not... but I think almost your body, when you start... Your body starts recognizing what's good for you, and I enjoy your gut shots now.
Yeah, so that's actually quite interesting because a lot of feedback I'm getting via Google reviews, for example, is that people struggled at the beginning, and after a few days they actually crave it.
Yes.
And I have some customers that tell me that they even feel the shot when they take it, that they feel that it is good for them, you know. And a lot of my customers, they report that they feel after a few days taking the shots, they feel much more energetic, they sleep better. I have a customer that cleaned up her skin. Another customer of mine now, I'm waiting for, and I asked him twice now to write a review.
Right.
Because that's absolutely amazing.
I should write a review
yeah,
well.
Please write a review. No, but he is off his arthritis medication now. And,
oh, wow.
And he says the only thing he changed was taking the shots.
Wow.
And that's for me, like, so I realize more and more that it's all about your immune system. So,
yes.
So these shots support your immune system.
Right.
And everything else just follows. That's why it's so different what people experience, because it's the problems they have are different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, especially people on medication, they tell me that they feel a big difference.
Right.
I have a few customers that had a stomach bug. I remember this one lady wrote...
I use it for stomach bugs all the time. Knocks it straight out.
Yeah. This one lady wrote me a very bad review because she literally had the shot and then she had a stomach bug.
Oh, wow.
And I gave her more information, told her that it actually can't be, but... you know, I also need to know these things.
Yeah.
And then a day later, she wrote me back, no, actually the shot helped her, and she just realized that, and her stomach bug is gone after not even 2 days. So yeah, it's important I mean, we are what we eat, and maybe we are even what our microbiome eats. You know?
100%. I mean, so again, this kind of came up in the CBD talk. As well, it seems that because of our diet and our lifestyle, you can't not supplement. Like, there's no way we are eating diversely enough to get all of the trace nutrients that the body needs. But now you're taking it one step further in saying that not only do we not get enough stuff sort of out of nature, we also don't have the mechanisms to break down. Even if you take it in, doesn't matter if your gut health is not right, you might not even get those nutrients. So you sort of supplementation you need to include some sort of supplements. And I mean, like people always go, oh, but supplements are so expensive. But I think if you look at it more holistically and you're not trying to go, oh, I need to take this supplement for that and that, you want to get to that point, like you say, where you're looking at your immune system holistically. Yeah. And you probably, I've used supplements and gone off them. I'm at that point now where I'm going like, okay, these ones I know help, and they help for these things. And now but at the same time I'm going like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I was taking stuff for, say, ashwagandha for anxiety, but now I'm going like, but my anxiety is lower. Do I need the ashwagandha anymore? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I actually feel like over time you shouldn't need supplements.
100%.
You know, and the biggest issue that we have, it's tough to live healthy. You know?
Right.
It's tough to eat like 30 vegetables
and to get your exercise
in a
and
week.
Your sun and your.
And then also, I mean, not every one of us has a job that they love, you know, and some of us have jobs that really stress them out. So that's also influencing the gut health. One example is, again, for the Western diet. I think it was in Tanzania, they had a look at the gut health of certain tribes there that eat a lot of fiber. And their gut health was like beyond good. It was amazing compared to our gut health.
Right.
And that, I mean, there are a lot of reasons for this. One is also this aseptic world we live in. You know, they're sanitized, and COVID made it worse.
Yes.
In Germany, there was just a wave of I think every 10th child got sick.
Oh, wow.
After they dropped the masks and all this.
Yeah.
So I think we need this. We need to be confronted with bacteria. We need to play in the dirt. We need to go camping and, you know, and get out there. If we are always in a sterile environment and we eat pasteurized sterile food and our body is not challenged anymore, our immune system is not challenged, and our gut biome just dies off.
Right. One question that I did, you mentioned a little bit about sort of analysis, and I brought up legislation and controls. And I know we had a brief conversation about this the last time I saw you, how, you know, we have organizations like ISO and all of this, you know, that you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get your products out there. I mean, we'll talk about where people can find your stuff, but and this was the same. Basically the same with Adrian and the cannabis stuff, is that unfortunately it still seems like a lot of the times the companies, we won't mention the who's, but there's some people with a lot of capital. They have the capital to jump through the hoops, but their product isn't always the best because they, you know what I mean, from their point of view, it's about, let's us hit the market with this product because this is what the market is demanding more than this is a great product and we want to actually promote wellness. Because I guess at the same time, like the pharmaceutical companies, it's in people's best interest to not do a product that's actually going to promote wellness rather than, go like, I'll take this for a few weeks and you should be fine, and then see if you need it again and kind of measure out things like that.
Yeah. So I think, so first of all, I think it's very important that we have certain regulations, because obviously you don't want to go to a shop and they say on a package it heals cancer and you have cancer and you use this product and nothing happens. No?
Yeah.
So of course it's important that there is somebody regulating this. I think for me, my biggest issue is that it's not the state.
Right.
So I can't give my bottles to the state and say, here I need a microbial analysis, and they say, yeah, of course, and obviously have to pay some money.
Yeah.
But here I have to do it with private companies.
Oh, wow.
And it is so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this, and I could not believe how expensive it is, and how are we meant to sort of get small business promote, and especially in this wellness space, and interesting note that that Adrian made. He was saying, like, well, especially with the cannabis stuff, it's like the government's doing everything to be able to get there first before, because that's the way, unfortunately, our government works. They don't really care much about the wellness, so to speak. So where can people find your products?
Yeah, so my product, that's another thing. So I tried, or important for me was that it's not a super expensive product.
Right. And it's not.
Yeah, I wanted it to be available for a lot of people. So at the moment, I'm in 26 shops in Cape Town and surrounding. And hopefully soon also with Wellness Warehouse and Faithful to Nature. But as I told you before, they need some analyzers, and I have to save some money first to do these analyzers. But yeah, I really hope I find a way to send it out to the whole country right now, because it needs to be refrigerated. I don't want to do shortcuts. So
that costs.
Yeah, I need a good courier service that does this for me. And right now, the courier service I could find, they take double the amount of the price of a bottle. So, and I can't expect anyone to order a bottle when they have to pay double the price just for the delivery.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, then best bet would be either, so if you Cape Town and surrounds, people can order directly from you, or do you have a website, can people find, like, for example, I know that I have some suppliers down the road from me, so that's convenient. And again, it's one of those, by me supporting them, they'll support you.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So it's, and I almost feel that's, as a South African, we need to have that sort of mindset. Yeah. You pay a little bit extra, but it's because you're planting a seed for the future of the economy, so to speak. And I'd much rather have them, the store, ordering 200 bottles from you than me coming to you and buying 3 bottles.
So I'm happy to deliver also in Cape Town. So I have my few loyal customers. And also, I'm selling the shots at some markets in Cape Town.
Which are that's I actually wanted to ask. What are the markets you sort of regularly at?
Yeah, so regularly is always a thing, because right now a lot of markets change their dates, and then you have another market there. So I try to be there every market. That's the vegan goods market in Tokai.
Okay,
a really nice market. The Rondebosch Park market every second Saturday in the month. The Phoenix Market in Glencairn, which is now on Sunday. So,
this coming Sunday. So I might just see you there then.
Last Sunday in the month. And the Ravens Market in Plumstead, which is not happening at the moment because it's at the cricket club and cricket season, so no space for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the markets I'm at. I'm also selling at Shanti Festival, which is a wellness festival in Hot Bay. Amazing place. If you like yoga and enlightening, go there.
Okay.
Really cool. And at the Ritual, which is a clean party, that's hopefully happening soon again.
I think I saw that. Yeah, I saw some stuff coming through.
That's
I think
really nice. It's an amazing. So basically, no alcohol. People come there on a Saturday morning, and there's music, there are talks, really interesting stuff. And that's where I also sell my shots.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So if people want to reach you, what are your social media, website, etc.? I'll put all of the links in the description.
So Facebook and Instagram is Manipūra, Manipura .South Africa. And manipūra.co.za is the homepage where you can find a lot of information about the fermented ingredients, about the benefits of the shots, and feedback from customers. And otherwise, you're always welcome to contact me, Manipūra South Africa at gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer all your questions if I can.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so I would suggest that you jump onto the Instagram. That's actually how I knew you were out in my neck of the woods. Seems that IG is definitely the way to keep in touch. So thank you so much for coming through, dude. And I wish you all of the best with your product. I'm waiting to see some exciting stuff. I think, did you mention you might be doing some stuff like sauerkraut and things like that in the future?
Yeah, I'm already doing it. So right now I produce hot sauces. Like I have a really nice papaya cardamom hot sauce, and they're also not pasteurized, so they're also probiotic sauces and sauerkraut. But my hot sauces, so I have my workshop beside a chef's table restaurant, and they literally took all my hot
everything.
Sauce. So and the sauerkraut might be available soon, but step by step, it's a lot to work on.
To do as a one-man show, man.
Definitely, yeah.
Guys, please support this guy. Mathias, thank you so much for coming through. And we'll catch up soon. I'll come visit you down at your shop and come grab some of those like first samples of your hot sauce, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
I bring you some.
Awesome, dude.
Cool,
Keep
man.
well.
Thank you.